Hello friends, I'm Marlon and this is MV Pittman Cross Sim Racing. Today I want to talk about one of my favorite 3D prints that I actually designed myself. And what I mean by design myself is that I looked at all of the other versions of what this thing was and then combined all of the features of all those things into one item that I can use as I see fit. If you want that thing, hit me up in the comments and maybe I'll sell you an STL or I'll actually put a print of it on my Etsy shop. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, before we talk about that, we need to talk about this and this. This is a transducer. What it is basically a speaker that makes really low frequencies that you feel more than you hear. However, it does work to transmit audio signals. The reason you need a speaker or a transducer that we normally call a bass shaker is because you want something like this to transmit sounds to this. And the way that this hooks up is really simple. You use wires. Plug one end in one end in the other. Red, black, just like that. So what is this? This is a USB sound card with an amplifier built in and a volume knob. A lot of people call it a knob sound because that's the brand that sits on it. But you can really use any sound card to drive a transducer. All you need is an amplifier. So some of you guys have computers, which you use to sim race, and you might have speakers or headphones plugged directly into the headphone jack on your PC. That headphone jack is amplified and you put the earphones on your ear and you hear stuff. That's all well and good. Some of us have USB headphones that just plug into a USB port. Again, there's an amplifier in there, but it's also a USB sound card in there. So you play sound to the USB device, comes out of the USB device, it gets amplified and then goes to the speaker that's right next to your ear, and that's how you hear things. For a bass shaker, you have a USB sound card with an output that goes to a speaker. And so this is a USB sound card. You can use it to generate sounds that come out in a transducer and shake with bass because it's really low frequency, because you feel those more than you hear them. If that all makes sense, we'll just keep going. So if you have a bass shaker and amplifier, opposite direction there, if we have both of those, you can use a program called SimHub to generate a couple of things. Either bass shaking movements that make your car feel more immersive, meaning it feels like a real car, or you can have bass shaker movements that give you information about what the car is doing. So that's generally a more like what your force feedback in your wheelbase does. If the car is shimmying, then the wheel turns a little bit. If the car stops suddenly, the wheel might get really difficult to turn, those kinds of things. So you can do either one of those. Sometimes you need to do both. Sometimes you put a whole bunch of these all over your rig so you can tell what things are doing. So you may put one at each of the four corners of your sim rig so you can feel the left, right, front, and rear tires, right? You might put them on your seat so that you can feel the rumble of the road, or you may put them on either side of your seat so you can tell if something happened on the left or the right side of your car. You may put these on your pedal plate so that you feel kind of like the rumble in the road and you get indications like anti-lock brakes. In a real car, when you press the brake pedal during anti-lock, it kind of vibrates a little bit and becomes more difficult to push because it's trying to keep you from locking up the brakes. So, those are all kind of like realism kinds of things. Information might be really your goal, and that's what I tend to do with mine. If you don't have an active pedal, and I can see why you wouldn't, because active pedals are like $2,000 for one pedal, which is crazy. You can put a transducer directly on the pedal and then assign information in SimHub to vibrate that specific transducer, that specific speaker, or that specific sound card port, left or right, depending on what it is. And you can assign that to something like wheel slip. So traditionally, if you're losing traction and traction control is being activated, you get like some sort of visual indicator. Maybe you have a light flashing, or there's some display on your screen, something in telemetry that tells you, that your wheel's slipping. But you don't always feel that specifically in a place. Usually it's kind of like the car's shimmying and it's like, oh, I noticed that I'm slipping a little bit. Sometimes that information gets lost in all of the other things that you're looking at and feeling and driving with. So a lot of people, including me, like to take a transducer and mount it to their accelerator, their throttle. So I will show you something that is not what we're going to talk about today, but we're talking about it, so I guess I will. This is the SemiCube throttle, and what you do is pair it up with an active pedal, because normally when you drive, you need at least a throttle to go and an and a brake to stop. So this has one major advantage, and that it doesn't cost $2,000. So that is a plus. The other thing is it is assigned and designed to work with an active pedal. So if you have this and you don't have an active pedal, you don't have a throttle either. You need an active pedal to use this. But if you're using SemiCube software, you can assign functionality to this a little easier. If you're using some random throttle, like the throttle from the Heusinkveld Sprints or something like that, you can assign the software separately. And SemiCube is doing some work to kind of bring other people into their ecosystem a little bit. But sometimes it's nice just to have the same software controlling both your throttle and brake and have those integrated. If you'll notice on here, I 3D printed a print to mount that transducer that we saw earlier. So there's a cable, because that's how you hook up transducers. You mount it on there like that, and then when you get wheel slip, this thing shakes and you feel it in your foot. And as I mentioned, a lot of times it's difficult to sort through all the information that you're getting from your car. So having an extra speaker directly on your pedal can be a real advantage. Basically, when your wheels are slipping, you know that you're doing something too much and you need to stop. Generally, let off the throttle. So you feel it shake, you let off, and you move on about your business, managing the rest of your race. So what did I want to talk about? I made this. And I think many of you who are familiar with the whole bass shaker thing and knob sounds are familiar with what this is. It is a mount. So you can put a knob sound device on your sim rig somewhere, because leaving it laying around the floor is unacceptable, right? Because it is. Piece of profile, because by the time you're using active pedals, you are using a profile rig, or at least a tubular rig that is very stiff and strong, and probably expensive too. So I saw a lot of these, and a lot of them had features I liked, a lot of them had features that I didn't like, and so what I did was make this to kind of mitigate the problems and accentuate the things that I liked. So I guess I'll go through them just to kind of highlight them. This fits. You can go ahead and grab a knob sound device for you. So first of all, knob sound device slides in here like this, and it's pretty tight, which is good because you don't want it to fall out. If you're shaking your rig around, last thing you want is for it to fall out. So some of the mounts don't actually wrap all the way around. They just have like a little cup on the side. You kind of clip it in, and most of them are really strong enough. You're really not shaking your thing that hard. Generally, if you are worried about your knob sound falling off, your rig is moving a lot, like you have a motion system and you have it turned up too high. But if you want to mount this in a position where it's not going to fall out, that's always good, because Again, laying on the floor, no bueno. But you do want to be able to mount your transducer and have it stay there. So having something that wrapped all the way around rather than cupped on the side was important to me. Another feature was this slot on the back. So a lot of times when you are mounting and you're making decisions about how you want to present, because some of you guys are on Instagram all day posting pictures of your sim rig instead of racing, you might want to mount it vertically on a piece of profile that goes like this. So there's 40 millimeters of space between the two ends of this slot. You may want to mount it vertically this way. So there's 40 millimeters in between those spots, but they're both in the same channel. If you're got a single slot like that, you can still mount it with one screw or with two. You can, of course, mount it pretty much any way that you can fit a screw in here. And on this one, I used M6. The device that I got a idea from actually used an M8, and it was a little thicker in the back. And as much as we like thick things in the back, I didn't want that huge profile on mine. So all I did was round this up, and you can see this is about 2 millimeters thick, but back here is closer to 5. And so it's still smooth. It doesn't have like a sharp bump back here. And I did that. I wanted that. So I took some features from other things and did others. There's holes here. So if you decide to put M6 bolt in there, and I guess I'll demonstrate that for you guys. There's a hole there so you can stick a tool through there and tighten it up. And this curves nicely, and there's room for that knob to be here. One last thing, if you look in here, you can see that there's a gap, and that was part of what I was talking about as far as making it tight. So this is pretty much exactly the same size as the device. So it's gonna squeeze it a little bit. What this does is relieve some of that so that you don't have to make the mount so loose that it'll slide out or so tight that it won't go in. So it gives you a little bit of give. And that's a really nice feature I picked up from someone I saw on, not Etsy, I think they actually were giving their design away on printables. So yeah, there's a lot of good ideas out there, but sometimes you just need to be able to pick the things that you want and get rid of the things that you don't. And so that's when it's time to fire up your CAD software and get some ideas, or look for a guy that is making stuff that tells you about it on the internet and then drives you to their Etsy or eBay store or whatever to get them some money so that you can have the thing that you need so you can go fast in your fake race car. So quick demonstration of how to put the screws in, and then we'll call it a day. So for mine, I used flathead screws in this slot. So I got a couple of those. And I use a 1/4 turn T-nut just because they're easier to put on the device. So drop it in the slot, sticks out the back. Orient your nut like that. Do that, and if you were just using one, you could just slide it in position like that. But most of you guys are probably going to use two because 2 nuts is better than 1. So find yourself a second bolt, screw, whatever you want to call it. Same deal. And it can be difficult to get these oriented on camera, but honestly, once you get this part done, pretty cake. And you don't have to put the mount in first. You actually would just take, seem to have misplaced my 4mm wrench. So, oh, there it is. 4mm wrench with a ball end so that it's not so difficult to turn. But here's a piece of profile. Let's say, for instance, you had a crossbar that only expose this much, and you wanted to mount the sim rig or the mount this way. So get them in there just like that. And then once you do that, all you have to do is tighten one. You can position it wherever you need to. You see I've stuck the wrench through that hole. Find the other one. There's a little bit of room if you need to manipulate that. If you can't, just put your finger in there, push it into position. And the cool thing about this slot is if you have, say, 1530 profile or 15 series profile, 1.5 inches is actually 38.1 millimeters. If you have that memorized, then you've been doing a lot too much design work. But if that distance between the slots on your profile is actually 38.1 millimeters, you can still use this. Also, you can use it in horizontal and vertical orientation. So I'm really proud of this. If you take this, drop it in, you have audio left and right on there, and you have access to the on-off headphone jack and USB ports. One thing about this is both a sound card and an amplifier. So if you want to use your sound card in Windows, just the one that's on your PC, and only use this as an amplifier to drive it, that might be a really good tip. If you don't do that and you have like more than 2 speakers left and right, then you are, I guess, at risk of having your USB sound card being enumerated in a different position each time you start your computer. So say you have, I don't know, 2 of these because you have 4 transducers, maybe you're doing 4 corners or something like that. And you use one and call it USB sound card number 1, and this one USB sound card number 2. Those can really be a problem if they switch, because then, like your left is your right or your front is your back. And it'll be really weird to drive your car with sensations coming from the wrong place. And having to check that every single time, not fun. And of course, if you're getting ready to start a race and everything's off, good luck, because most of your online races don't really allow you to stop and check. You gotta, you're not gonna quit, so you're gonna drive with your car all jacked up till you lose. So if you are interested in something like this, leave me a note in the comments, and we'll figure out whether or not we're gonna put these on the store. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope to see you guys in the next one.